Hello, folks. Thanks for taking the time for this technical tutorial on OCI Agent Development Kit. In this video, we will look into how we can use Agent Development Kit as a client-side library to simplify building and operating agentic application in OCI. Pairing ADK with OCI Generative Agent Service simplifies the agent development process through code rather than doing manual operations over console. So the ADK reduces agent development and testing cycle, enabling us to focus on the agentic logic, specifying all that business logic via application code rather than adding multiple combinations over console. So managing our agent business logic would be completely taken care by the agent development kit. So let's quickly look into the tutorial how we can get started. So before we start with the agent development kit, there are certain prerequisites which are needed. First of all, we need to create an agent. No, we won't be creating an agent by ADK. ADK is basically for writing the business logic, defining the different tools, all the combinations of the tools that we need, the API-based tool, SQL-based tool, function call, custom function calls, all that tool creation as well as the business logic which is needed in the agent would be part of the ADK configuration. But the base of agent creation as well as the agent endpoint has to be manually created. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I have already created one agent. I have created an agent and then I have also created an endpoint. So this just simplifies the initial prerequisite or the building step for agents. All the rest of the configuration in terms of the tools addition, creation, managing the tools, connecting to knowledge base, running different business logic, all of that would be part of ADK. And that's how your applications, all the web application, all different applications that you'll be building on top of an agentic AI platform would use the ADK and combine your business logic with your application, providing you a seamless experience of using OCI generative AI agents. So here is a sample code of a simple application, agentic application that is using OCI agent development kit. We are creating a simple tool, that's the demo method, which is most of the tools or operations that we see in the agentic process. So we are just creating a sample tool as a reference for our agent development kit. So we would be creating a tool, naming the tool, passing the tool to the agent. Now the key factor that we have to look into here is the client. So the client configuration was defining how we are going to connect to our OCI agentic service. Since we already created one agent, so we would be using that agent's endpoint, not the agent OCID, but we will be using the agent endpoint OCID. That's how we will be connecting to the agent. So this agent OCID would be needed. So we are using that agent OCID, passing that as the base of our agent application, agentic application, passing that as the base, and how we are going to connect to it. So there are different ways which we can connect to it via the instance principle, instance principle. In our case, it's a simple tutorial. So I'm just using the API key that is being defined in my config file of OCI. So that is the API key, the default profile of the config file, and the region. I'm looking, or we are working on the Chicago region. So currently we have the region as Chicago. Now the base and main factor that would be come into picture is agent.setup. Now, agent setup would be the moment where, or like while executing the agent setup, the actual sync between the agent, all different operations, all the business logic that would be written, like the creation of the tools, adding the instructions, all the configuration, all the business logic, all the configuration or all the operational activity on this agent would be defined with agent.setup. So this would be synced with our agent in the console. This will be synced. So you no need to manually add any instructions at any point of time. If you notice here, I've been testing it for a while, and if you can see here, the welcome instruction, routing instructions, all kind of configurations, and even some other tools which I have been running currently. You can see this has been created. Once we run this, it would be syncing the configuration that we have defined as a part of ADK with the actual agent that is defined in the console. So while we are creating applications or web applications or any kind of application that we are creating that has an ADK and that has the business logic of how to interact with agent or how to configure with how to configure with agents, the ADK will sync our agent definition with the agent that is created in the console. So let's get started of building the agent. Of course, the next step is after agent that setup is created, we are just trying to test by running a simple command. They're just by passing a request to the agent using the agent endpoint. We'll be running an input and expecting an output from the agent. So let's get started on how we can configure an implement terminal. There are certain prerequisites or setup that can be done. So let's get that going. Okay. Let's create a virtual environment. Virtual environment is created. Activating this virtual environment, and virtual environment is activated, and we will be installing the OCI agent development kit. So we are getting the libraries for ADK. Meanwhile, while this happens, a quick look again onto the agent. So we have just created the agent, no other configuration as we see in the tools. All of this would be synced again based on what the configuration we are providing in the agent development kit configure code. So we are just making use of the endpoint and running it. Okay. So we have our ADK libraries are installed. Let's run the agent. So over here, just to see how the reflection happens or change happens, over here, if you can notice, we are currently having a tool demo_weather, which is active. Like most of the old ones are deleted. In this particular code sample, I have changed the name of our tool from demo weather v1 to see the difference, how agent would sync the changes and make sure that you can programmatically manage your OCI generative agents. And then we are also providing the same tool that is defined above as the tools for the agent on our OCI. Let's run this by Python agent.py, and let's see what's happening at the backend. First of all, it is trying to get the details and syncing local with remote. So this is where the sync will happen. It is connecting to the remote and it's removing. So if you notice here exactly, it's removing the old, considering that there is no definition of demo weather in the existing or the current code base. There is no configuration defined for demo weather. So it will be removing all those tools which are not defined, or basically the function tools which are not defined in the ADK code or in our client application code. It would be deleted and a new tool would be created. So, okay, over here we can see demo weather is deleted, demo weather one is active. And let's see what is the definition being added here, type, object, function parameters. So all the definition that we have defined inside our code, get weather for given location, arguments, location of weather is required, get weather for given location, get weather for given location, properties, location of for which weather is queried. It's been defined over here. We can see the Asian deployment has been completed and even the execution has been completed. And we have an updated Asian as per ADK. So it's the simplest way in which ADK helps us to build client applications, ADK just helps us or simplifies programmatically managing our agents. We can have multi-agent support, we can have loops, we can have external calls, we can have API calls, we can have tool calls defined for SQL, different kind of combinations. There is a long list, which I would be creating a different tutorial again, how we can automate this, how we can integrate it with CI/CD pipelines for our client applications. So all kind of operations of managing and maintaining your agents on the business logic can be programmatically handled with the help of Agent Development Kit. Thanks for giving your time, and we'll come back soon with the next tutorial. Have a good day. Thank you.